Yeah. Good day, everyone. Joe Pochodyniak and Ken Reid here with MacNicol Associates Asset Management. We wanted to give you a little walk through registered accounts. It is Friday, February the 14th, Valentine's Day. So you know what? Forget about all those flowers and chocolate. No one needs them anyways. What you do need is to tell that special someone in your life, how you can help them save for retirement and maximize the amount of money they put away for tax sheltered growth, which is what we're going to do right now. Disclaimer is always not providing direct investment advice here. This is sort of a general overview of the topic. And if you want specific investment advice, that's the business we are in. So check us out at MacNicolAsset.com. We love hearing from you. So do be sure to do that. All right, let's get down to business. So pretty quick moving data points here. So it's already Valentine's Day, like I mentioned, and that means you only have a couple of weeks left to contribute. I believe the official rule is you have 60 days after year end. So we're in 25. Year end was the end of 2024. So you got 60 days to make those RSP contributions, and that takes you to approximately March the 3rd. But we cannot emphasize strongly enough to do that before that time period. So let's get started here. So what is an RRSP? It stands for Registered Retirement Savings Plan. They've been around for decades now, and it's really a savings plan that lets you save specifically for retirement. So that's a theme we'll kind of hammer home today. And it allows you to make contributions to this plan, and any of the growth in the investment income that you have within the plan is going to be tax deferred, so you don't have to pay any taxes on that as long as the money stays in the plan. Now, there are some features of the plan. First, your contribution limit is typically defined by a couple of things. The main thing would be the 18% of your previous year's earned income. Now, there are sort of maximal limits on that, and I believe that this year, as Ken has correctly pointed out, just about 32,000 and change for your maximum amount. And remember, you can over contribute by $2,000 without penalty. If you kind of breach that amount, then well, just don't do that. So make sure you keep track of your RSP contributions. We can help out with all of that. And these contributions actually pool. So if you were, earlier in your career, you were, maybe you were paying off a house or something like that. That's great. And now the debt is sort of in the rearview mirror. So you want to start maximizing these RSP contributions. As far as the flexibility with them, they're not as flexible as some other registered plans, which we'll talk about, but you can take money out of your RSP if you want to buy a home or go back to school. So there's programs in place that allow you to do that. Not exactly on a tax-free basis, but you essentially get what I would call like a tax amnesty, meaning you can dip into that RSP, you can go back to school, upgrade your education, or buy a house. And then over time, you do have to go ahead and replenish that. The main benefit of RSPs for people that have earned income, taxable earned income, is really the ability to lower your taxes. And in my own just over two decades in the industry, I've personally seen on numerous occasions where these RSP contributions can take people from owing money come tax time to actually getting money back. So really effective way to help manage your finances. So let's go to the next slide, Ken, and just give everyone here a little bit more color around this home buyers plan. So the home buyers plans. So what the home buyers plan is, it's basically a subsection of RSPs that allows you to take money out and contribute it towards the purchase of your first home. So if you've owned a home previously, you cannot do this. But if you are a first-time home buyer, maybe you were renting because you just couldn't find the home that you really wanted, this is a great thing for you to take a look at. In addition to the first home savings account, which we did cover off in one of our earlier segments. But with the 24 budget, they did increase the home buyers plan withdrawal limit from 35,000 to 60,000, and I think there's two ways of looking at that. One, I mean, everybody knows that pretty much anything, house, condo, townhouse, they've all gotten a lot more expensive, and so the government has done this to make, I think, things more realistic. But remember, the more money you take out of your RSP plan, that means you need to catch up a little bit quicker to meet your retirement goals. So again, make sure you do that, and you do have 15 years to repay these. So on your T1s, on your notice of assessment, there'll actually be a line item and account showing you how much you have to pay and where you're at with that 15-year period. The best way to do it is just sort of get into the habit of if you've tapped into one of these plans and you're in your first home, that's great, congrats. But as you're working towards repaying these, just keep close eyes on your notice of assessment, okay? And in general, it's just a good idea to keep on top of your paperwork. Let's go to the next slide, Ken. I think home buyers plan is a great tool here, but in this case, I just want to talk a little bit about contribution limits versus deduction room, because they're kind of the same on the same spectrum, but they are a little bit different. And the main difference is that the RSP deduction limit is not necessarily your contribution room. Contribution room is essentially a number. It's how much you can put into your RSP in any given year. And we talked about some of the limitations around it. So again, 18% of your prior year's earned income, or up to a maximum of just around 32,000. And again, it does pool. So if you missed a few years, maybe the budget was a little bit too tight, you can go ahead and top those up on top of that. But the contribution limit is, again, just how much money you have the ability to add to your RSP account. The deduction limit is how much of those contributions you can use to reduce your taxes, right? So if you're doing your own taxes, you probably know that. If someone does your taxes for you, then they would know that. These two numbers are generally the same for the majority of Canadian investors, but they're not always the same. And so you are allowed to go ahead and contribute money to an RSP and save the deduction room for future years. So on the next slide, Ken, we'll just go ahead and talk about why anybody would want to do that. And
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead, Ken.
No, I was just gonna say, give a nice little example that we put in this deck, because in terms of reading it and listening to it, you might need an example to explain these complex two terms that seem very similar but are quite different. I mean, so if you want to get into that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and it's really an issue of, and I actually encountered this issue a few times personally. So let's say you have $100,000 in RSP contribution room. Maybe you were in a dual, household where one member of the household was at home, and you just, you were able to do that, but you couldn't. And let's further assume you receive $50,000 in an inheritance. And so finally, let's go ahead and assume you're in that sort of income range of 100,000 to 155. I forget where exactly on the tax act that would be, but Ken, I think the next slide talks about that. So in this particular case, if you put the 50,000 into your RSP, remember you can, because we just mentioned on the previous slide, there was a few years where you missed the ability to contribute. You could put the 50 grand into your RSP and deduct the full amount in the same year in which you made the contribution. In that case, that's going to drop your income tax rate from 43% to an average rate of about 38%. And that should, all other things created equal. Remember, we're not doing kind of advanced, all-encompassing tax work here on this podcast, but that should get you a refund of around $21,000. Which is definitely material. So, I think the benefits of saving and investing over time really do pay off more than, flowers and chocolate. So that's really nice to get that really big beefy refund. Next slide. So the 21.5 is great, but if you split, in this case, the contribution between a deduction in the year you made it and the following year, you'd actually increase the total amount of the refunded monies even more, by $2,000 in this case, assuming all other factors are constant. It's just that you would have to wait another year, and sometimes parents or grandparents or whomever run into this same situation with RESPs, the Registered Education Savings. You can go ahead and make kind of a lump sum contribution. But if you want to maximize the value of the Canadian Education Savings Grant, there is actually a schedule that you can follow to maximize that and just make it a little bit more affordable. And again, getting into the habit and sort of routine of savings and investing. It's like working out or a good diet, right? It only actually works if you're consistent. So this is an example of this case study regarding deductions and contributions. Now, one thing you don't really want to do with your RSP when you're working is kind of pull money out of it over and above these plans that I talked about earlier. So going back to school or buying your first home, that's sort of a different animal. Just dipping into your RSP while you're working should sort of be one of those last case scenarios. You can do it. I mean, life's expensive. If you need the money, go right ahead. But you need to know that there's a couple of tax implications here. The first is this withholdings tax, right? So if you email us right now, the MacNicol team, and say, I want to take out $5,000 from my RRSP, we'll go ahead and do that. But we'll just remind you that on $5,000, there's only going to be $4,500 actually hitting your bank account because of this 10% withholding tax rate. And if you're in Quebec, it's even more. So these are the withholding tax rates on direct pure RSP withdrawals. And so just be mindful of that, because you can maybe in some cases get some of these withholding taxes back. That's not guaranteed, but it is a steep price to pay to take your own money out. And I guess the other side of that is, remember, you do get contribution minimum deduction limits with your RSP monies. So I don't know that these withholding tax rates are necessarily, quote, unfair, but there's certainly something that you need to be aware of. So that's withholding tax rates, and we'll go to the next slide here, Ken, where we just sort of talk about the income tax considerations. So this is a lot of people miss this. The withholding tax rates are sort of more, I think, prominently advertised by our industry to investors and such. But there's also income tax considerations, and this is a situation where you might get that sort of unpleasant meeting with your accountant where they tell you that you're going to owe money this year when you thought you might not owe money, and that's due to this slip here, the T4 RSP. So if you take money out of your RSP directly without utilizing one of these plans that we talked about earlier, it's essentially more income tax that the Canada Revenue Agency didn't see you as having. So you get taxed on this, and it will result more often than not than in you owing money. So those two things you need to be aware of. I don't, personally, as a rule, like when my clients pay any more taxes than they absolutely have to. The way I look at kind of wealth in Canada is there's really two answers, right? Invest wisely and pay as little taxes as you possibly can. And so just be aware of these. Next slide. So with RSPs, you can't have them forever. They do conclude, and they conclude in the calendar year in which you turn 71. So my birthday is November. Let's say I'm turning 71 next year. It doesn't matter that my birthday is in November or April or any other month. That's sort of the rules, and that's when you start to receive notifications from ourselves, the custodians, all that kind of stuff, alerting you to the fact that you have to do something with your RSPs. You can't have them past that point. And so there's a couple of options. You can just literally close the RSP and take all the money. We never recommend that, because there is a huge tax bill that you would get from that. So that's not a good choice. You can put it into a life annuity, which is a it's not the best choice either, because I know interest rates kind of can change, but they're still not kind of at those double-digit levels where it makes it a very, very attractive option. So uh, widely regarded as the best option for the majority of our clients and most Canadians is to close your RSP, transfer all of the assets to a new account called the Retirement Income Fund, or RIF, and begin taking payments from that RIF account. Now, one of the questions we get asked is, well, I now have this RIF. But I'm good with my money, and I don't want to take out any more money from my RIF. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. You kind of have to. And sorry, Ken, can we just back up one slide, because I really want to make this point just clear for everyone. So the RIFs, right? How they work is they work on the basis of a minimum withdrawal rate. Okay, minimum. And it's prescribed. So the government actually tells you in any given year what percentage of your RIF you actually have to cash in and receive payment for. Okay, you can do this early. There are a variety of planning strategies in place. You can take out more than the minimum RIF payment, but remember, if you do that, there are tax considerations over and above having T4 RIF income. And if you're married or have a common law partner, and they're younger than you, you can actually use their age as the basis for your RIF payment. So that's potentially another planning technique. So in this case, we put together a really quick example here. At the end of 2022, we figured your RIF would be $500,000. In this year, you're 73 years old, and if you just go to the table and look with your eye to the age of 73, you see that the required rate of RIF withdrawal for that particular Canadian is 5.53%, 27,650. So you would have to take that out of your RIF within that year. How you do it is up to you. We're very flexible here at MacNicol. We have some clients that take it out quarterly. Some people take it out once a year. Whatever's your pleasure, but as long as you take that out. And again, you can take out more than the 27,650 in this case, but again, be advised of things like withholding taxes. Okay, thanks for that, Ken. We can go to the next slide. And in this case, we just talk about really the retirement transition, or the year in which you turn 71. You again have to choose between these three options that I talked about. So we'll just breeze through this one real quick and keep moving here. Education savings plan. So I've got a couple of great kids, and yeah, I do have these in place. Obviously, there is a $50,000 lifetime contribution limit, but if you're not familiar with registered education savings plans, this is one of the things. I know people like to throw the government under the bus, but there are things the government can do for you if you just do a little digging. And one of those things is this education savings grant. So what that means is, when you put money into a registered education savings plan designated for a youngster that's going to go off to college, university, or a vocational school in the future, you put your own money in, so you contribute to that, and then the government matches it to a certain percentage with this Canadian Education Savings Grant. And in the base case, they will give you 20% on your money on the first $2,500 of an annual contribution. So to review, you can't put the 50,000 in one shot. It's a great idea in general, but in order to sort of mathematically maximize the value of the monies you get from the government and the benefit of compounding over time, what you want to do is, the moment that baby gets born, and mom or dad register the baby to have a social insurance number, you want to go ahead and open up one of these plans real quick and start pumping money into them kind of gradually over time. And when the baby becomes a big hulking teenager and goes off to the University of Toronto or someplace else, there'll be some monies there for tuition and stuff. And Ken and I, obviously, a little bit of an age gap here, and so I graduated in 1999. And when Ken told me the price of his degree, I almost started sweating. So it is expensive, and it doesn't matter if it's Western U of T, someplace else, trade schools. One of my cousin's kids is going to be an electrician, so that's a great job. But these are all pricey programs, so for sure get on it. And if you have questions, we can help. Let's keep moving, Ken.
Just Joe, one question on the RESPs for people who don't know. Are
Yeah.
they tax deductible similar to RRSPs?
No, no, you can't put money into these and claim it on your income. I wish you could, but you can't.
And then on the RESP front, you can hold basically the same amount, same kind of assets as an RRSP, right? There's no limit because it's an education plan.
Yeah, they removed the foreign way back in the day when I started in the business. There were concentration limits on holding what are called investments outside of Canada. Those have been removed, and so there are some strings attached. We can advise clients on that directly, but it's gotten a lot easier to open, administer, and invest in these plans for sure. Yeah. So we'll just talk briefly about personal pension plans. So we talked about sort of the minority of the registered savings plan universe. Now we're going to talk about the I guess the Ferrari or the Rolls Royce or the Cadillac of pension plans, the PPP. And the personal pension plan is a more than just an account. It's the way you want to think about it is it's a pension planning strategy and tax saving solution that is more closely aligned with people like business owners, franchisees, incorporated professionals. So my next door neighbor is a lawyer. We spoke with a physician the other day. Those sorts of folks, those people frequently have professional corporations, and so with those individuals, the PPP is sort of the superior or maximally tax efficient registered savings plan option that they have. And what we've done here is through a partnership we have with a group called Integris. We've put up this slide here just to illustrate in general terms. We didn't include numbers. The rate at which the PPP outperforms, not from an investment perspective, because again, you don't want to make silly decisions with your investments. We can help with that, but the structure of this PPP plan allows you to accumulate money on a tax deferred basis much more optimally than the other plans below it. And you can see that gap actually grows the further out you get. So if you're a doctor, a dentist, CA, lawyer, those sorts of folks, and you need help with these plans, MacNicolAsset.com is your go-to source. We'll get you on the right path. So PPP is really good strategy. TIFSA. So I was actually just talking to one of our clients earlier in the week, and he asked some questions. They were great questions, and so I advised him that he needed to open up a tax-free savings account. He'd not done so before, and so one of the questions he asked me is, have I missed the boat? And I said, you absolutely haven't. In fact, with the tax-free savings accounts, this year's limit is $7,000, which is a $500 jump, as Ken is correctly pointing out here. But the big thing is now, again, these accounts were opened in or started in 2009, and so you're up to $102,000 of overall cumulative contribution limit room. So if you haven't opened up a tax-free savings account in the past, these are phenomenally great things to have. You can put over $100,000 in them now if you haven't done so before, and all you need to do is be the age of majority, which is 18 or 19 in Canada, depending on the province. And these are really great accounts to have. And on the next couple of slides, I'll explain why. They are a little bit different from RSPs. So it's it's important you know it. Sorry, Ken, my mistake. Let's back to the tax-free savings account, and we'll get into these first home savings accounts in a moment. Okay, so the main thing you need to know about tax-free savings accounts is that unlike an RSP, when you put money into a tax-free savings account, you do get that immediate kind of shelter or tax advantage growth on your money, but you do not get an RSP contribution and deduction slip. So you can't actually use tax-free savings accounts to lower your income taxes payable. So why would you want to do these? Well, the trade-off is that these are a little bit more flexible. So you can go in, take money out of a tax-free savings account, use it, and there's no withholding taxes, which is kind of nice. And there's also no income tax considerations, which for a lot of us is even better. And so the only thing you need to know about this is that if you go ahead and take money out of a tax-free savings account, you got to wait till January 1st of the following year to not only get the New Year's limit, but to replenish what you took out. Lastly, as you get older and you've been financing your RSPs and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, that's great. But as you get into your late 50s, maybe early 60s, of course, depending on your situation and needs, you want to kind of balance out how much money you put in between registered plans and tax-free savings accounts. And the reason for that is really simple. We talked about one of those reasons earlier. That was that if you have a huge RSP, when you go ahead and convert it into a RIF, assuming that's the route you take, your RIF payments could actually inadvertently push you into a higher tax bracket in retirement, which a lot of people really don't like. And so we just want to talk about that a little bit. But also with registered plans like RSPs and RIFs, the only tax-free rollover you get is to your spouse or common law partner. Once that option is exhausted, there is a deregistration in place. So when the last individual goes, those registered plans are fully cashed in and fully taxed, and that goes into the terminal year's tax returns, and it's a big tax bill. So just be aware of that. I think with these plans, talk to us, but also keep good paperwork and be aware of your surroundings. It's important to do that. Final point on tax-free savings accounts. This is a great estate planning tool. There's no question about it. It bypasses probate. It maximizes the value, the after-tax value of your estate. And so, if you're really into that kind of stuff, that can really help as well. So a lot of features. Let's get into the first home savings account, Ken, because it's a new account. It was tabled in the 2022 budget, and it is now live. And we actually have several of these here now. So the first home savings account, or FHSA, is a new registered plan that allows Canadians to save towards the first home by allowing the account holder to contribute up to $40,000 over the life of the plan to a first home purchase. And the way you want to think about the first home savings account is it's sort of an in-between point between the RRSP, which has the first home buyer's plan flexibility, but comes with a repayment schedule, and the tax-free savings account, which I think is more kind of open-ended in terms of what you do with your savings. So all of these accounts you can open, and we can help you with here at MacNicol. So if you have questions, we have answers, and we love helping you out with your finances. So let's keep moving here, Ken. I think the next couple of slides are going to talk about, again, more in the way of this first home savings account. So like an RSP, the contributions would be tax deductible, like a TSF, tax-free savings account. The withdrawals to purchase a home would be tax-free. But with the first home savings account, it doesn't require buyers to pay back the funds as it does with the first home buyers plan. And again, remember at the beginning I said, the way you want to think about RSPs is for saving for retirement. Everything else is saving in general, or in this case, saving for a specific reason. So I think that, when you're sitting down with us, or whomever your planner is, I think it's before you get into, stocks, bonds, the markets. I think you want to map out a plan and sort of ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve in the short term and in the long term? And you can see with these first home savings accounts, right? The annual contributions are capped at $8,000. You do have that lifetime limit of $40,000, but there are again sort of limitations in any given year. And yes, unused room can be carried forward. Okay, so that's the first home savings account. These accounts can stay open for 15 years or until you turn 71, which is kind of an interesting number that they came up with. And the eligibility is really simple. You have to be obviously a Canadian resident, 18 plus, and a first-time home buyer. So if this is your, if you've owned three houses in the past, forget what I just said. Okay, so we're
Now, Joe, this is a different question. What happens if you do not buy a home? What happens to the account?
Well, actually, you can roll it back into so if yeah, that's a great question, and we do hear that one a lot, and it's a great question not only because of the astronomical costs of homes, but a lot of people just can't find the home they want. So what do you do in that case? Any savings in the first home savings account that are not used to buy a home can simply be rolled into your RRSP or RIF on a non-taxable basis. So don't worry, you're not going to lose anything. You're not going to get a huge tax bill. You can just simply call us and get us to roll that into your RSP or RIF on a non-taxable basis. The FHSA funds withdrawn not to buy a house would be subject to taxes. So that I think is an important point. I think most of our viewers would guess that you can roll these things over into another registered plan. But if you go ahead and take the money out, just like with an RSP, that you're probably not going to be too pleased with what happens next. So just keep your eye on that. Okay. So yeah, let's keep going here. Deadlines. So as I mentioned, it is Valentine's Day today. So once again, forget about the flowers and chocolate. Tell that special someone in your life they've got literally just a couple of weeks left to make these contributions. We are basically ceiling to floor coverage. If you're worried you're going to miss it, just call us up right away, and our great team here at MacNicol will get you. On the path to making it in time for that deadline. And so again, I talked about some of the dates here. If you're watching this podcast and you just want to take a screenshot of these with your phone, I'll be quiet for a second and you can go ahead and do that. And that's it. So, I think again, with all of these plans, there's so many moving parts, so many things. We can help you with that. We can help you structure a portfolio that's both tactical and well diversified here at MacNicol. Our firm's been doing this for 24 years now. And so what Ken has on the screen here, I think is really, really important is an example of a typical well diversified balanced portfolio. We do think here at MacNicol the biggest threat through capital, your family's capital is inflation, and so a lot of our portfolios have inflation fighting securities in them. There's things like physical gold, bullion, silver, those sorts of instruments. We have exposure to alternatives. That's part of the business that I help out with. The core holdings themselves are not just diversified across a number of blue chips, but they get into things like mid cap companies and sort of that variation between growth and value. And then really, really exciting news is that we now have our MacNicol Safe Harbor Fund ready to go. And so what that fund does is it helps your family get what's called portfolio insurance, and that's going to protect your portfolios to the downside. Remember, if you start early and you invest regularly, working with us, the compounding of your money, you're going to make money over time. But every so often, there are these unpleasant bouts of turbulence in the market. They can be unexpected. And so with the MacNicol Safe Harbor Fund, there is now sort of the confidence and I guess the reassurance that there is something in your portfolios specifically designed to protect you against a stock market crash, which we do very well anyway. But we've added on this layer of portfolio insurance just to give you that extra peace of mind. Okay. So just sort of rounding out a few more here. This is our core portfolio strategy here at MacNicol. Again, I think David says it the best. We're almost more risk managers than we are portfolio managers, and by that I think he would mean the following: we're always asking, what could go wrong with an investment, because we don't want to have that happen to you. We don't want to have, those unpleasant situations in your portfolio, and that's why we've been very well skilled and producing these returns where you get the returns that you want to meet your goals without a lot of the risk, meaning the standard deviation that can come with investing in securities. Remember, securities are not guaranteed investments. So stocks, bonds, the price of gold, Bitcoin, all of these things, they can change in value and sometimes dramatically. So that's really the main point there. Okay, so the alternative asset trust, I'm really fortunate to be the lead portfolio manager of this great strategy. I didn't start it; it was here when I joined, and from day one, I was really impressed by the caliber of sponsors that we have in this program. We invest in things like private commercial real estate, hedge funds, and private equity holdings. So we invest both in individual private businesses as well as limited partnerships that hold private companies, and they flow all the way up top to what we call the top fund, the MacNicol Alternative Asset Trust. And those of you that have it in your portfolios, you can see how many units of the trust you have in your particular portfolio, and you can track the progress of that investment. And the progress has been great. So since inception, and by the way, we're in our 15th year now in 2025. The program's been walking around at just a little better than 9.3% net of fees, of course. So we want to make that point clear. And the volatility, 6.8%. I mean, if you're not a diehard kind of stock market person, what does 6.8% mean? It's literally half the volatility of the S&P 500. And so the inclusion of this well-diversified kind of strategic alternative asset platform in your accounts is again going to further mitigate the risk in your portfolios and lead to those attractive risk-adjusted returns that we've been doing here for over 2 decades. Okay, so quite a lot of ground was covered in a short period of time. I think
Joe, just one question before we wrap it up today. Is the alternative asset trust eligible for all these types of accounts that you mentioned?
Absolutely. Yeah, we went ahead and got a trust wrapper around it, so you can. I was gonna say go nuts, but that's kind of not what you want to hear from a portfolio manager. So you can definitely include these in your registered plans. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, listen, Ken, thanks again for your support in terms of putting together another fantastic presentation to our viewers watching this podcast. We thank you. Any questions at all? You can check us out at MacNicolAsset.com. And we also have a part of the website, MacNicolAsset.com/events, where we list all of our upcoming great podcasts and information. So do check that out. And if you have any questions with your investments or know someone who does, info@MacNicolAsset.com is one of the best ways to reach us. We will get back to you. Thanks very much. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Family Day next week. And yeah, hopefully that's it with the snow.